Andor season one, the finale of season one. We've been talking about all the different arcs on this first season, and we finally got to the last two episodes. Mr. Kevin Coll, what did you think about the landing? Did they stick it on season one? What was your thoughts on this final arc?
Well, yeah, there's no doubt that they stuck the landing. Again, it seems like every episode of the show there's like a line that just resonates. Cassian says, I'd rather die trying to take them down than die giving them what they want. I mean, what a great line.
Yes.
Rick's Road, I think, was a great way to kind of, as we get into season two, it really lays the foundation of where we saw Cassian from the first episode to the last. He is now deeply involved with the rebels. We've seen this evolution, and I think they stuck the landing. Like anything, it was like, oh, I don't want it to end. I want more. I wanted to see the Rogue One sort of, how we got to that scene at the beginning, and so we're going to get that with season two. And I think I knew.
Yes.
Watching this in real time that there was going to be a season two. I feel like they had announced it pretty early on that there was going to be a second season. So maybe I backed off on that sort of thought that it would go into season two. But Marva's speech, wow, that was just a great stirring call to action. Bix rescuing Bix. Gosh, what a beautiful woman that is. Adria Ajorna, yeah. Can't say enough about her. And Luthen too. I mean, we got the smile, this sort of profound smile that he has that only Stellan Skarsgård could give. I mean, they stuck the landing. I can't speak for anybody else out there, but it wasn't my favorite episode. We've talked about it throughout these recaps. I mean, I think we all love those middle arcs the best, the prison arc and the Aldani heist. I think the best, but I mean, as far as this, I liked it. I mean, I thought they stuck the landing.
And this was all about closure, tying off the boat and making the arcs, completing the arcs for all of these things. We had his evolution from he didn't want to fight, he didn't want to be in this, and into like this is the full on. He's in the rebellion. He's a leader, and he's choosing to fight. He's wanting to take on the rebellion. Him being mentored by Luthen, and it's like taking the person that he was from the beginning to the person he is at the end. And that's what any great story, it's like you are not the same person at the beginning of the journey as you are at the end of the journey. And how much do you change? How much do you evolve in that time period is always interesting. And they just did a fantastic job of creating that person, getting him to the point that we know he is going to be in Rogue One. It was actually interesting because last night, not by any specific choice or circumstance, actually, I watched Rogue One again, and it was like, man, it's crazy to think about. It came out in 2016. Next year is the 10-year anniversary of Rogue One.
It's wild.
And I was like, how has that much time passed already? I feel like I was just watching it in the theater. But where all of those characters are in that movie, and what we see, what we get to know now that we've seen this first season of Andor, we're going to see the second season. It's so funny seeing all of those characters, and even kind of the real world, like pulling back the curtain and the fourth wall, like Genevieve O'Reilly's Mon Mothma.
I was going to bring her up, but go ahead. I want to hear what you got to say.
One, you first see her with the bowl cut from Return of the Jedi, and my wife was like, what is going on here? But it's so funny that they kind of let her loose in Andor. Like, they let her off the leash. She acts like insane.
She's one of my favorite characters, Justin. She's one of my favorite characters in the entire series, and I feel like she's underscored by obviously Luthen and Marva and some of these other ones. She, to me, outside of Andor, is the most well-rounded character from beginning to end. We find her in the first few episodes. She's this, she's a politician. She's not sure what's going, where she fits in all this. She knows that there's a rebellion. She feels this weight. How's she gonna make to this dark step? I mean, dude, she like politically motivates a marriage like for her daughter to keep funding the rebellion. I mean, think about that. Like, she's selling her daughter basically into a marriage that she doesn't want. That her mom probably deep down inside doesn't want this for her, but knows that this has a payoff. So, making personal sacrifices to me is such a huge theme of the whole show. Her character shows that so well. Anyway, I didn't mean to overspeak on you. I just had to
Oh
get
no.
that out because,
Yeah.
like, yeah, she's one of my favorite characters.
That is like, it's just crazy knowing what I know now about her versus what I knew when Rogue One came out. And I was actually showing a group of friends Star Wars for the first time. They had never seen it. And I said, okay, instead of A New Hope being a movie from 1977, let me show them Rogue One because it's a modern movie and it leads right into A New Hope, sets you up, and then gets you ready, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
the appetizer for the main course. And it worked because when it was over, I said, okay, I want to show you just the first opening scene of A New Hope. And so after that was done, they're like, oh, we need to watch the rest of the movie. So we watched all of A New Hope back to back. And I was like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. And it also was the testament of the power of A New Hope and how amazing that movie is.
Yep.
But when they were watching Rogue One, they were like, who is that lady with the red hair? She doesn't have anything to do. And I was just like, in my mind, I was thinking, man, these guys need to watch Andor. Like, as soon as they see Andor, they're going to see this is what she's been doing. She's pulling the strings. She's doing all this stuff with the rebellion behind the scenes that you don't see in Rogue One. You don't see it in Return of the Jedi. Like, the few glimpses of her that you see, she's like the figurehead and the politician, but you don't see the stuff she's doing behind the scenes. So that's what I loved about
Well, and
this first season of
you get a
Andor.
sense of how difficult that is. And
Oh
like, I
yeah, yeah.
actually, what's fascinating is I almost want to see her character. We got a glimpse of her in Ahsoka,
Yes, right.
which is after
Mm-hmm.
the Empire's fallen and the New Republic is there. I want to see her character in that um, landscape
Yes, yes,
where it's
yeah.
like, okay, you don't have the weight of rebellion, where it's like, if we don't
Mm-hmm.
succeed, it's like our forefathers of our country, we're going to die. It's treason,
Right.
to now having to establish this new republic and all of the weight there, and what the things she has to deal with. And, you're never going to get it right, or perfect. One other call out, B2E,
Yeah.
our little droid B2, to quote our dear Princess Leia, may she rest in peace, never underestimate a droid.
Yeah.
I think that this was a subtle thing that I didn't get until I watched it again, which was just that continued letting a droid be that symbol of loyalty and love and rebellion that is so much like ingrained in the original trilogy. His grief over Marva is so great, and it's so moving that he projects her final message, and it's not just a function, right? Like, it's like he is part of this rebellion as much as a human character is. And I just love that. I love that. And I don't think that got a lot of payoff. The last thing is, again, I mentioned the smile that Luthen had. And we know he was going to kill Cassian, right? And that smile, I think, was probably his most human moment of the show. Being able to finally see, again, that was the result of Cassian's character arc paying off, right? And so, because Cassian was able to pay that off, Luthen was able to pay off his character arc because he actually then shifted his belief, and that, idealism and trust can coexist in a rebellion, and
Yeah.
so I think that's really cool. Again, you asked me the initial question. I'm gonna go back to it. Did it stick the landing? Heck yeah, it stuck the landing.
And I want to see in season 2, like you said, when we talked about the
Mhm.
trailer, we don't get specific plot details or storylines. But in season 2, are we going to see tension between Luthen, Mon Mothma, Saw Gerrera? Like, we've seen all these people separate for the most part. We see a little bit of interactions between Luthen and Mon Mothma, Luthen and Saw, but is there going to be like more tension between them about setting up this rebellion? Because I can't all be sunshine and rainbows of, oh yeah, everything's going great, this rebellion is coming together nicely, nobody's dying, nobody's having any bad
Well,
days, it's just everything is great.
you mentioned it when you were talking about how it connects into New Hope. I always now watch, like, when I want to rewatch Star Wars, I watch Rogue One and then I watch New Hope.
Nice.
in the original trilogy, because it enhances the whole original trilogy. Because what we get a flavor of is that at this point in the rebellion's history, there was this belief that nobody's coming to save us. There was no spark. There was really, in that scene in Rogue One towards the end where it was like, where, oh gosh, I forgot her, Jyn Erso has to make her
Yes.
speech. Rebellions are built on hope. This is before the heroes exist. This is before the Skywalkers and the Solos and the Princess Leias. This is really how they're made. And so I like getting this story because to me, it makes the original trilogy heroes that much more interesting and compelling in their own way. And that I think is what's unique about the show. And I think season 2 is going to continue to double down on that. And I can't wait to see it. Continue to push the darkness of the rebellion and the space that they're in right now, because we saw this in Rebels, and again, it was more of a family friendly show, animated, how the alliance started to come together. You had extremists like Saw Gerrera, and you had political rebellions like Mon Mothma. You had the Ghost and what's going on in Lethal. All these different factions have different sparks of rebellion, but to see this all come to a head, it's going to be really neat. And that's one of the other elements I want to see in Rogue, or in season 2, excuse me, is maybe the perspective of all those things that we saw in the Rebels show, but from this vein. And especially it being live action and a little bit more hardcore and adult and all those kind of things. I'd like to see some more of that. Last thing, in the trailer for season 2, did you notice the shot of Saw Gerrera looking out the window and he sees the Star Destroyer is a reverse POV of the Star Destroyer over Jeddah from Rogue One?
I did not.
Yeah, like when we see that huge Star Destroyer over the mountain thing, that is, you can almost look across and you can see the port from where, what's his name, Saw Gerrera is looking out of. So it's really neat how we're getting the reverse POV.
The reverse of that.
Flags rain.
Yes.
Rebellion. It's not a problem if you don't have to look up. So good.
I cannot wait. And the last thing that I wanted to say about the finale and things that wrapped up, again, going from the first episode of Andor to the last episode of the season, the music and the opening, how each episode added a little bit until the final episode, and it's a complete song. And I thought that was amazing. And it was funny because when the episodes were coming out, I was just skipping them. I was like, oh, it's the same thing. But I didn't realize that each one was getting bigger until like this full song by the end of it. And like you talked about B2 Emo's, his kind of the funeral transition. The music was like a call to arms, and that constant beat. I think that was like brilliant storytelling through music, which the show has done. The whole season was a brilliant look at storytelling, but the fact that they incorporated that with music was incredible to me. It was just, you had that haunting, escalating emotional backbone of the show. And so to see it finally, like I said, everything about this was like tying together all of the arcs and the stories and the evolution. I love that. So I want to call that out.
Nicholas Britell was the composer on Andor, and he is 3-time Oscar nominated composer. Most notably, recently, Succession was he did the Succession theme song, which is very good.
My wife loves Succession.
Yeah. Moonlight, If Beale Street Could Talk, and Don't Look Up. But I also didn't know this. I had to pull this up while you were talking. That funeral scene, the Ferrex funeral theme, was actually a live in-world marching band that was performing that. Yeah. So I got to go back and listen to this now.
Yes, man. This show is the gift that keeps on giving.
Who's the one person you want to see in season 2 that was maybe in season 1 that you like to see make a comeback? Because I've got one guy and one guy only that has to make an appearance.
Well, I want to see more Bix. That is my my person that I want to see to be more.
She's in the trailer. There's no doubt. You like Bix. But no, I want my gong guy. I want him. He's got to make it. He's got to make
the time grappler.
Yeah, whatever his name is. I want that. I want that. I want to see the most amazing. Yeah, that guy. Talk about somebody who really loved their job.
Yeah. Well, what do you want to see, listener or viewer of this? We've got so much stuff coming up for season 2. We want to hear your theories, your favorite moments from season 1,
Yes.
and then your predictions for season 2. All of those things, we want to hear about it in the comments. And actually, if you listen to our podcast on Spotify, there's even a place on there to leave comments, and occasionally we'll have polls and stuff. But we love hearing feedback from you, so we always want to get that. Thoughts on Kathleen Kennedy, thoughts on season 2, thoughts on season 1, Andor. We are in the year of Andor this year of 2025. So we'd love to hear all these things. Mr. Kevin Coll, thank you very much from Fused Film. We love hearing from you, sir, and we cannot wait to have you back again talking season 2. Thank you very much, my friend, for joining us. Is there anything, Kevin Coll, before we leave, that you're looking forward to in 2025? Putting you on the spot here in the Star Wars universe. Is there anything from you want to hear at Celebration, or you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Celebration, I would like to see a plan.
Yeah.
Just where we're going, and what are the
Give us
sort of
something.
release flags that are in the ground. Just what are we doing there? And because there's been so many rumored things, Taika Waititi, Ryan Johnson, all these people and more. I want to see that. The other thing is too, I would love for them to announce that Ryan Gosling is playing Dash Rendar in the Sean Levy movie, because that he is one of my top 5, if not my most favorite Star Wars character. In fact, just do a Shadows of the Empire movie. Like, why not?
That would be amazing. Excellent, my friend. Well, as always, we would be honored if you would join us.
Trust only in the Force.